Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. On behalf of His Excellency, distinguished Senator Godswill Obot Akpabio, GCON, President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Senate leadership, and indeed the entire Senate, let me sincerely and wholeheartedly appreciate you for honoring our invitation to this news conference, despite the short notice we gave you. In truth, your presence here today demonstrates your commitment not just to the media organization you are representing, but also to your statutory obligations under Section 22 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. I must also thank you specially for the unflinching support you have been giving the 10th Senate as an institution and its leadership since its inauguration on June 13, 2023. We treasure your input to the process of building an economically viable, politically stable, and socially cohesive Nigeria. The task of building a nation that we all desire is collective, and our responsibility, therefore, the role of every actor, including the media, is critical to building a viral nation that will work for all of us. Gentlemen of the press, the rationale for this news conference is pure and simple. It mainly borders on the alleged economic sabotage in the petroleum industry, including the recent accusations and counter-accusations of importation of petroleum products into the country. Given its consequences on our domestic economy, the Senate, under the able leadership of the President of the Senate, His Excellency Senator Godswill Obot Akpabio, GCON, constituted this 15-man ad hoc committee to investigate alleged economic sabotage in the Nigerian petroleum industry on July 3, 2024, to look into this allegation. We are all aware that the petroleum industry has been on the front burner of public discourse since the creation of this ad hoc committee, as regulators and industry players continue to make accusation one accusation or the other, on various issues relating to the general operations of the petroleum industry. Hence, the need for this press conference to educate the general public on the mandate, workings, and of course, the modalities adopted by the ad hoc committee to carry out this assignment. The creation of this ad hoc committee became overwhelmingly necessary after an extensive debate on the floor of the Senate on Wednesday, July 3, 2024, following a motion on alleged economic sabotage in the petroleum industry, sponsored by distinguished Senator Asukwo Ekpeyong, representing Cross River South Senatorial District, with a clear mandate. My very respected gentlemen of the press, it will interest you to note that during debate on the motion, distinguished senators in their contributions had expressed dismay and described it as economic sabotage and a clear failure of the government statutory agencies charged with the responsibility of safeguarding the nation's economic interests to live up to expectations. Hence, an ad hoc committee was constituted to conduct a comprehensive investigation into all the prayers and report to the Senate within 3 weeks from the date of its inauguration. For the avoidance of doubt, The terms of reference of the ad hoc committee include: A, to examine the pre-shipment and pre-discharge standard test parameters adopted by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority with a view to uncovering loopholes, if any, being exploited to get toxic cargoes into our country. 2, to determine the level of compliance of the NNPC Limited direct sale, direct purchase arrangement in line with the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, including the extent of transparency and accountability in the scheme. 3, to beam legislative searchlight on the activities of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, including payments made to transporters in the last 10 years. 4, to inquire from the NNPC Limited the state and or status of the 22 depot built by the defunct NNPC to eliminate road distribution of petroleum products. 5, to engage with stakeholders within the oil and gas industry with a view to identifying possible gaps in regulating and strengthening the surveillance and monitoring structures in place to enable Nigeria to detect violations of best practice standards in the importation of products before they enter into the domestic supply chains. 6, to also engage with the NNPC Limited with a view to understanding the extent of its determination and timeliness for the startup of government-funded refineries. 7, to investigate how institutions across the importation and distribution chain failed to conduct quality sampling, shipped in products without auditing, and performed part validations by the Nigerian Customs Service, Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Standards Organization of Nigeria, and Nigerian Ports Authority. And finally, to also perform such other consequential amendments as the ad hoc committee might deem fit. Members of the ad hoc committee immediately rolled up their sleeves, met on several occasions to determine the best ways to achieve its mandate, and collectively resolved to sacrifice a portion of their recess period to carry on with the assignment devoid of bias in the overall national and public interest. This commitment led to the inauguration of the ad hoc committee by the President of the Senate, His Excellency Distinguished Senator Godswill Obot Akpabio, on Monday, July 22, 2024. The ad hoc committee has identified some critical stakeholders to interact with in the course of discharging this noble assignment. They include the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum, Oil, the Federal Ministry of Finance, the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, National Engineering and Technical Company Limited, and their contractors, Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Standards Organization of Nigeria, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nigerian Customs Service, Nigerian Navy, Obert Oil, Matrix Energy Depot, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, International Oil Companies, Depot and Petroleum Products Marketers Association of Nigeria, Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, Nigerian Port Authority, Dangote Group, modular refineries, Capital Oil, and Nigerian-owned refineries. It is pertinent to note that in the course of interactions with the identified stakeholders, the ad hoc committee will visit any of their facilities that it deems necessary, especially the state-owned refineries, to ascertain their status, considering the huge fund already invested in their various turnaround maintenance year in, year out, without any meaningful result. The committee, along with Nigerians, is particularly interested in understanding why local refineries are not working, despite the substantial amount of money spent annually on their maintenance and operation. We will closely examine what the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited has been doing to address this persistent problem. Additionally, the committee will meet with stakeholders in their various zones to gather localized insights and feedback. To ensure broad participation and transparency, the committee will create a platform for the general public and stakeholders to submit memoranda before the public hearing. Our investigation seeks to identify and hold accountable all parties involved in the importation and distribution of the adulterated petroleum products, PMS and AGO. This includes suppliers, importers, regulatory bodies, and any other entity that may have contributed to this serious lapse in quality control. We will conduct a thorough review of current regulatory frameworks and procedures to identify deficiencies and recommend necessary reforms to prevent such occurrences in the future. The committee is committed to ensuring the highest standards of fuel quality for the Nigerian market. The public hearing will be held as from September 10th to 12th, 2024. With this, would have given members of the public and players within the industry, as well as stakeholders, a period of 4 weeks to submit their memoranda to the committee. We also would have visited, where necessary, some of the refineries to determine the status of work. The sessions will enable us to engage directly with key actors in the petroleum industry and unravel those behind the illicit practice of importing hazardous and substandard petroleum products into the country, contrary to established protocols and standards. After the public hearing, the committee will go into closed sessions, during which we'll consider all the submissions from the key actors, draft our report, and the eventual adoption of the report. The Senate Ad hoc Committee on Alleged Economic Sabotage in the Petroleum Industry assures the public that we will pursue this investigation with the utmost diligence and integrity. We are dedicated to safeguarding the interests of all Nigerians and restoring confidence in our energy sector. We call on all relevant stakeholders to cooperate fully with our investigation. Together, we can ensure that such an incident does not reoccur and that the integrity of our fuel supply chain is maintained and the timeliness for the startup of government-funded oil refineries are determined. May I categorically state that this ad hoc committee is not meant to witch hunt any individual or group of people or corporation, but rather to find a lasting solution to our collective mutual gains. To this regard, the ad hoc committee seeks the cooperation of stakeholders in order not to jeopardize the good intentions of the Senate. Gentlemen of the press, Our mandate is of strategic national interest. Each member of this committee was carefully selected based on his or her records of sterling performance. We're all men, and when I say we are men here, that will also include women, as it is contained in our law. We're all men of integrity who will never pursue selfish interests at the expense of the national interest. The Senate did not constitute this committee to intimidate and witch hunt any party. Rather, the committee was constituted for the purpose of ensuring social and economic justice in the light of grim realities we are facing as a federation. We are also taking this task seriously with a view to addressing fundamental issues that pose grave threats to our economic prosperity, fiscal stability, and public health as a nation. In line with our mandate, we will definitely unravel the roots of economic sabotage in Nigeria's petroleum industry and make necessary recommendations that will entrench global best practices in the industry and open it up for more investments, especially in the midstream and downstream sectors. We are utterly committed to this mandate. We shall also carry out this national assignment without fear or favor. We shall be fair and just to all parties with a view to promoting and protecting the strategic national interests of our fatherland. Long live the Senate, long live the National Assembly, long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I thank you, and may God bless our country, Nigeria.
Mr. President of the Senate deliberately decided that he needs someone who has the integrity, the commitment to get the job done. It is true that there have been a lot of oversight and other stuff that people have cause to worry about. I think this one is different. Listening very attentively to the chairman, he's very much conscious of the fact that the future of our country is in this committee.
I think without prejudice to the outcome of the past investigative panels that have been set, I think that the opportunity for us to unravel some of the key issues around the industry today will derive more from the fact that this is a time wherein we have the current government has been bold enough to remove the fuel subsidy.
There has been a lot of underhand dealings in the industry, and efforts to sanitize it in the past have all proved abortive. And this is evident both in the downstream sector and also in the upstream sector.
I can guarantee you this is a very high-stake assignment. And I sit here, my heart pumps twice the normal pumping because of the stake. And I thought the press conference was well crafted, point by point, to deliver to Nigerians an assurance that this ad hoc committee will do things differently with a high level step of integrity. And the members of the press, we're meeting you here because we want to carry everybody along. We walk the talk, you monitor us. You monitor us 24 hours a day, and we guarantee you at the end of the day, we are going to have a very solid recommendation to move forward, to move Nigeria forward.
I want to assure you that we are people that are very much concerned with our integrity. Some of us here are elderly people that must try as much as possible protect their names, a name that they will leave behind for their family.
We believe that there's not going to be any scapegoat. Anybody who is involved in this alleged economic sabotage must be exposed.
In the event of a failure of a person or an entity to show up when summoned, the Senate can issue a warrant to the Inspector General of Police to compel that corporation or entity to make itself available to this subcommittee. There will be no sacred cows. When you are summoned, people will make themselves available.
Here we have an act that is in tandem with international best practice in order to address all the problems that constitute a cog in the wheel of the operation of the industry. So this committee cannot be said to be like other committees in the past whose report did not see the light of the day. I beg to disagree.
What makes me happy was the emotional question that are coming from the press, which means that the feeling of the Senate when this motion was brought to the Senate is similar to the feelings of the press. And when you hear the feeling of the press, you now know that's the feeling of the people. It looks like we're on the same page towards achieving results.
Jermaine, and I am happy that we did have this press conference. I'm happy also that the chairman has taken time to explain in details what this whole ad hoc committee plans to do. And so I want to say that I agree with what my distinguished brothers and senators have said in their own responses. I know that deep inside you, you're still wondering, are these people going to be any different? But I'm sure that having listened to their various submissions, give us a chance to do things differently.
I want to assure you, we will not fail you. The Renew Hope agenda of Mr. President is not just a slogan. For us, as members of this committee, it has to do with our own integrity. Integrity, because if we fail you, then we fail ourselves, we fail Nigeria.
We heard you loud and clear. Your questions sank into us as echoes of the popular concerns of Nigerians. Your skepticism is the skepticism of Nigerians. Your worries represent the worries of Nigeria that is bleeding everywhere you turn and that is asking, can someone or some people just stand up and stop this bleeding that I'm going through? And that's our driving force. Are we going to do anything differently? Our colleagues have spoken. You have heard from them. So I have answered your question.